Here goes nothing. Out there, my name's Connor, and just for once this will be everything I use and how I pack my bag. There's tons of gear videos out there. I believe a lot of them come from the bigger community in the USA, and I find that a lot of times their gear lists will be quite unrealistic for what we have to deal with in the UK Isles. So we'll just get into it. So I've got my bag here. It's empty right now except for my little Peak Design clip for the camera, which is kind of a mainstay, it never comes out. I start things off always by putting a little dry bag that kind of matches the same amount of literage as my whole pack, just in case I want to have the entire lot waterproof. What I'll do is I'll put that in. Next up, in either order, because I've got a frameless pack, I kind of like to use little things to kind of work as my backrest against the bag, so I haven't got any spiky objects like my pot, my spoon poking into my back. I'll use a couple of little items like this, and you'll see a few more pieces in a minute. But this will go inside the lining, but down the back. And then straight away after that, I'll get my Rab Ascent. I do have a sleeping bag because I have a quilt system, but I believe that the immense blustery weather that we always face, I just think it's so much nicer to be cozy, and in a proper zipped up sleeping bag I can cinch the hood down and I just feel a lot safer and cozy in this system. So that goes in right at the bottom, and I'll stuff that all the way down so I've got no air gaps. That first item was of course my sleep mat. Everyone knows the Thermarest X-Lite. Next up will be my Rab. This all goes in the dry bag still. What you've got to think here is, like, what's the order of importance that I'm going to need throughout the day, but what am I going to want to keep them dry as well. So everything that's like to do with sleeping, I want to obviously keep that dry, but that can be at the bottom of the bag because I don't need that most of the time. And then when that's done, just one more thing, I do take my pump sack for the X-Lite, because when you've hiked 15-hour days sometimes, nearly 30 miles, last thing you want to do is be puffing your lungs and nearly passing out. And then what else I use this for will be that whatever clothes I'm not wearing to go to sleep, like my puffy jacket or whatever, fold that in, and that also becomes my pillow, so I don't really take an air pillow. And then that's the last of the things that I really want to keep dry. So I'll roll that down, squeeze it into the bottom. You can clip it up or whatever. Once you roll it up though, it's never gonna get wet in there. It's just important to get the air out of it. And then I do have a Tyvek sheet. I've had this for absolutely years now, and it's never let me down. It really got cut out for me just because it wanted to be a ground sheet for an old tent that I had. And then after that it's become, a back support in my pack. It's a sit pad when I'm on wet surfaces. And I just use it outside my tent when I'm cooking in the evenings if the grass is all wet, so it's just become the perfect little thing. All it is like a roofer's breather membrane. I prefer it to plastic sheeting because I feel like it's never torn, it's never really let me down. That'll slide down the back, and that'll be my final little back support on my frameless pack. The order changes based on how much food I have, but it'll either be my Six Moons tent that goes in. It's just in a lovely stuff sack. I absolutely love this thing. It's got the pleasure of simplicity. It is a single wall tent, so lots of condensation. There's a bit of a drawback. It's a bit weird in the wind, like you can often have the canvas against your face. But to be honest with you, to carry something that's around about 700 grams or whatever, and I can erect this with my trekking pole, I don't have to carry any poles with me. It's just simplicity over anything else. After long days, pitching this thing, 4 to 5 little pegs, trekking pole goes up, and then I'm in. and it's so simple. That will just go on top of everything like a little layered system. And then next to be my food items. This will usually be absolutely chocker with food because, you know, 6'3" guy. I do put it away. In here, my little spoon, long handle. And then this is my main cook pot for dinners and stuff. This is called a Soto. It's about 750 mils. Nice plastic lid. And then in here, bandana for wiping. Again, multi-use. Wiping down condensation, keeping this from rattling around, and also I can just wipe out my pot with this too. So yeah, I just keep whatever gas canister I need for what kind of trail that I think I'm going to be on, how long I might not be in town, and then I just stock up. They tend to up to about 250 gram gas canisters. They seem to fit in here fine, but it's nice to have. It stops that rattling around, you know. And then I do have a separate coffee pot because I cook a lot of like rice and fish and stuff in that other pot, so I don't really want to be drinking a tea or a coffee in the morning. I've always carried a little, I don't even know what this is, a little Boundless Voyage 300 ml pot that I drink all my tea out of, have done for years. In there is my MSR stove. I think it's called the Pocket Rocket. Pretty good little thing. And also this Flint and Strike, which has been a mainstay in my hiking and camping equipment for, I really do want to say, like 12 to 13 years. It was a gift to me, and I've always preferred it over having a lighter because I don't ever have to worry about fuel, and it's just always been able to strike up my gas stoves real easy. So all of that usually sits down the bottom of my food bag. If I do have a lot of food, usually just comes out and sits next to it in the bag. It's not really an issue, but for the most part, for a lot of trails in the UK, you're not normally more than 2 days away from any given food stop, so you don't never have to carry a crazy amount. You see it's got a big capacity. Just on top but to the left of my tent, because the next item will unfortunately be one of the heavier things, and that is my electronics bag, because I like to make films for me and for everyone, as I enjoy doing. 20,000 milliamp Anker power bank, which I use to charge all my bits and bobs on. You know, various cables, I'm not going to go into those. This little SD dongle, which means I can upload photos if I want while I'm on trail. Microfiber cloth. Wall-port if I'm in pubs, or if I'm staying at a hostel for the night, I can recharge things. These are the spare batteries for this main camera. So I always carry 2 of those, and then the little it's just like a little dual port thing, so I can charge 2 batteries at once. Head torch, really classic turn on for you. That's the red light, so it's really good for stealthing, and then I can turn on the main beams if I'm trying to do things as well. And there's the last battery, and that's everything I have in there. That piles nice and neatly usually next to the food bag, or if I've got a lot of food, the food bag tends to spread across the whole thing, and then it's just layered and layered again. It just gets a little bit taller. Not really an issue because I've usually got all of this space with this bag to roll it down. Now that is everything that goes inside the pack usually, except for a couple of beers normally. And then I just roll this down. Clip that up at the top, stop it from leaking, cinch that down. No zips with this bag, so it's super easy, so much less to break. And that's what it looks like with all of the main events in there. And then I'll just get into what goes in the stretch mesh at the front, the side pockets, and then the little, these lovely little pockets that packs have as standard on the front of their bags. Just quickly with this thing, this is only really if you're in Scotland, but the midge net is absolutely essential for Scotland. And that usually stays at the bottom of the stretch mesh. That's just my bag of pegs. I have like I'm pretty sure they're just like an Amazon knockoff version of the groundhogs that you guys always see. That lovely shape, they never pull out. I've never had any issues with these guys. I carry more than I need, just in case one breaks, or I need to do double pegging on certain points if it's super windy. So that goes in, stretch mesh on the right hand side. Left hand side, the one that most of you questioned about, how do I go number 2 on trail? I have a thing called the Deuce of Spades. It's just a super lightweight piece of aluminium. It's like 6 ounces, 17 grams, whatever. Dig a 6-inch hole. You guys know the rest of the story. I don't tend to take a lot of toilet paper with me because it's bad at biodegrading, I think, and I just literally pinch a little bit every time I'm at a pub or a hostel anyway, and then make sure that there's always like a couple of little handballs of that. That goes down the left hand side there. Next up, bits and bobs. Toothbrush. I don't cut the handle. I mean, each to their own, but the idea when I've been out on trail for days on end and I've got stinky fingers, I don't really want to be digging around in there to desperately try and, because I'm saving 5 grams or whatever. Tiny little toothpaste, sorry, lip balm type thing. I've got a little patch just in case I get a puncture in my air mattress. I carry these tweezers with me. They're basically for if I get ticks, I can puncture blisters because I am a sufferer. We'll get into that. And they're just super useful bit. I don't really carry a knife because I don't think it's necessary when you're on some of these trails. I've always carried with me this, it's basically just an old plastic pot that used to hold a roll of film. And what I've always done is I've got Leuco tape around here, which is really good at patching over blisters. I've always had this. What I do before every trail is I restock this. I cut sections out of it that are going to be enough around the back of my foot or to wrap around a toe. I'll always have a bit wrapped around this tube, and then inside, I suffer from heartburn, so I've always got double action Gaviscon. I've got Imodium just in case. Yeah, that's just my bits and bobs, pretty simple. And that goes in down the front. Next up will be my rain gear, because it's next to always blustery in this country. I just have pretty cheap Regatta. They've never let me down. They're super useful in high winds, not only rain. They go down the front because you're going to want to reach those if you're in the rain. You're going to want to get there. You don't want to be opening up your pack if it's raining. Now the jacket, I always tend to go for a super like fluoro, easy to be seen colour. Reason being with the rain jacket, when are you wearing it? It's usually because you're in a pretty sketchy situation or the weather's super bad, so you're at risk of things happening. So if I'm wearing this, I feel better that I can be seen. Again, down the front, easy to reach. On the very rare occasion that it's sunny, I just stuff my little sunglasses down there as well. Into the shoulder strap pockets. So that one's pretty much taken up by the fact that I have my Peak Designs clip on here, but what I have is, I call it the condom system. It's just a little roll sack, but it's perfect size to fit my microphone for the camera down the bottom, and then I will put my camera over this whilst it's still on the clip, and I'm actually able to wrap it around and clip it at the bottoms, and so far it's never got wet on me. May eat his words on the next one, but we'll see. That gets stuffed just down the side there because it just about fits next to that Peak Design clip. And then on the front, I always used to have my Catadine bottle in here, but I'm trying to switch things up and maintain a lot more of my weight to my sides and my bottom because it feels a lot nicer. I'm switching it up on the shoulder straps because it's nice not to have things in my shorts pockets, so I'll have my AirPods, which they're good, but if you don't want to have to worry about charging an extra item, I'll just bring some cheap corded ones, it doesn't really matter. And then my phone is now going in there, so it's easy to reach because that is my navigation system right now. A lot of the times we will bring paper maps and stuff, but most of the time I just find it easier to nav on there because you've just got immense apps these days. If it's going to be really rainy and that condom system's in place, then I will break the GoPro out. If I know it's going to be raining throughout the day, I'll probably clip this nice little crocodile clip I've got to the sternum strap, and then that means that it's ready to go all the time. Or I'll try and squeeze it in one of the front pockets. but it is super useful. That is the shoulder strap pockets. Into the sides, I use just cheap whatever 1 litre water bottle in one of the sides. And then the other side, this is often full of water, but this is a Catadine B3 water filter system. I do have a Sawyer. I'm pretty sure that they're just as good as each other, but my thing is all about the efficiency with this thing, is that if I'm still on the move, I can just grab some water and then I can just move on with this. I don't have to sit there decanting it into anything else. That goes in the other side, so I'm distributing that weight of water. And then down the other side, while I'm not using it, next to one of those bottles of water will be my Black Diamond. It's one of the cheaper ones they do, but I love this thing. I tend to only use one. It really helps me on going ups and downs. I've also snagged a little bit of Leukotape around there just in case I run out of the other one. But yeah, this thing served me well. Pitches my tent for me and takes a lot off the legs when you're doing big days, so really appreciate that thing. And just on the other side, because I do love my filming for my camera, I've got a little ultrapod tripod thing and a little guy I bought from eBay. I think it's like a newer thing, but it just helps me get my Peak Design clip straight onto this without any screwing. It goes in there. You can tighten those side pockets up so nothing's going to fall out. And then my favourite bit, into the bottom. So because I don't want to be worried about getting into my bag throughout the day, I'm usually thinking about it in the morning when I'm packing up. What am I eating throughout the day? And then I'll just grab everything that I've got, and that unpacks up this lovely pocket on the bottom. And I stuff everything I'm eating down in here. And then that's easy to reach. I can literally just grab it whilst I'm hiking. I don't even have to take my bag off. You can grab your rubbish, and they've even got a tiny little hole pocket down in there, so nothing's ever gonna fall out and you're going to avoid littering. So this is my camera rig. That's the little ultrapod tripod sitting on there. This is a Sony a7 III. I have used this for years. It's not necessarily something I bought for hiking and long distance trails. You could definitely get something lighter, like one of the Sony ZV-1s or something like that. I would always recommend Sony. I just think their systems are outrageous for hybrid, because I love my photographs as well. But yeah, this is the Sony a7 III. I use a 24mm prime lens. It's the G Master version. Then I have a little Rode Video Micro on top. Just lastly, what am I wearing? So this has always been the shirt of choice for my trails. This is a Columbia. It's super good. It's great UV protection, antimicrobial, and it dries really fast because I do have the waterfall back, as I like to call it. I sweat a lot, so it is super useful for me. I just use any running shorts that are netted because I don't like to wear underwear. I find that wearing cotton underwear and stuff is just an absolute nightmare. Maybe I'll change that in the future, but we'll see. Don't always have tights on like this. I'm just out here because it's colder weather. And then I use ultra Lone Peak shoes for the trail right now. I try to change it up because I've never been able to find the perfect footwear. I take 2 pairs of socks with me. That's the last point, is that I will have an on pair and I will have a pair that's been washed for the day, and then I'll probably hang it off the back of my bag for the day for them to dry, to be rotated for the next day. So I've always got fresh and clean. I'll try and wash them at a water source. I'll always have a fresh and clean pair ready for the next day. And that's pretty much all I do. Well, that's my whole rig. It's about £15 base weight. Absolutely love it. That's £15 with all my camera gear. If I wasn't carrying camera gear, we're looking at £9.5, which does just sneak into the ultralight category. But unfortunately I'm never going to be that because I've got absolutely everything on me. Absolutely love this thing. We've been through a lot together now. It's pretty much been the locked-in system that I've had for, I want to say, 2 years. It took me a long time to get to that stage where I'm so comfortable with my gear that I don't have to tweak and change so many things all at once. Yeah, it feels really nice. We'll hopefully hopefully there's some takeaway from this for you guys, because I feel like there might be, all the way from being a beginner and like how the hell do you pack a bag to go on these trips, or if you're super experienced, or there's a couple of little things that you might have seen there that you could take away from that as well. So yeah, that's it from me. I honestly cannot thank you enough for everyone that watched my last video and my first solo adventure. It means so much to me. This is the gear that's coming with me on the next one, and I hope you guys stay tuned for that. See you!